Welcome to Beyond Top Secret. Today we have a fascinating guest joining us, someone who experienced the New Jersey drone invasion firsthand. Living right in the middle of the chaos, they witnessed the strange, unidentified drones that sparked a lot of fear and speculation in his community. But was it just drones? Or was something else happening behind the scenes? Get ready for an eye-opening conversation as we dive into one of the most bizarre aerial incidents in recent history. Paul, welcome to the show. How are you?
Good, doing good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm actually in New Jersey as well. I'm here for business.
Oh,
So I'm
wow.
in a hotel right now. Like I'm usually am like 3 to 4 nights a week. I'm in hotels, so gets old fast. But at least in New Jersey, I can get good pizza.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. So we're just going to jump right into it. So I guess, well, first we'll let the listeners get to know you a little bit. Um, so your name's Paul. You're from New Jersey. Anything else you think the viewers should know about you? Any hobbies?
Um, I just work doing landscaping, and so I've just had some time off in the winter, and yeah, just doing whatever, just kind of into magnets. I've been more into the UFO stuff and everything once, with the drones and everything, but
Yeah, I'm sure it was
mm,
probably a really, really big deal when that was going on in New Jersey. And some people say it's still going on. So who knows? So have you always been interested in UFOs or like unexplained phenomena, or did you just get into it when the drone stuff started happening?
I would say like maybe kind of like a slight interest in it in general. I mean, kind of, it seems like everyone's kind of interested a little bit, like in the
Oh
idea of
yeah.
aliens or whatever. But I was never really very much into it, and then mostly with the drone thing is what really got me, a lot fully more into it.
Yeah, that's definitely understandable. When all that was going on, I actually went to New Jersey then too. I live in Pennsylvania, so I'm not that far away. But I saw them with my own eyes, so I couldn't imagine living there with that stuff in the skies every night. It had to be pretty concerning. Did you ever have any like strange experiences in the past or anything like that?
No, nothing remarkable or noteworthy before. I never, like I said, I never really looked either, like how like a lot of people, they don't really look or so no, I not really anything noteworthy in the past.
And that's cool because that I mean, it's not like you were some UFO nut quote.
Oh
You know,
no, no.
this is you saw something strange and that's what got you into it. And that's what would happen to any normal person who had an experience like yours. So we'll get right into your sighting and then we'll build from there. So can you just like walk us through your sighting? Where were you? What were you doing? And what caught your attention at first?
Well, when I first started getting into it, like I said, was, about all the drone stuff. And my friend, we were at a Christmas parade and we were talking about it, and he told me to, we're looking up at the sky, and I started seeing, just balls of light, like almost like an orb, very far away, and they were just kind of, just flying around. They would go one way, then they would come back the other way, and ever since then, that's what got me into it. And I would try getting pictures of it on my phone, and my phone could never pick it up. It was either too far away, not bright enough, whatever. And so I had my telescope, and I have a DSLR camera. And so I did it at two places when I started using the telescope to try and look at them, and at the bay and just right in my backyard. And at first, I mean, it's kind of difficult to get them because there's lots of other things in the sky, also
Oh
like
yeah.
at first, how I think of it as how people say they blend in or disguise themselves as planes. I think it's more they look like a satellite. That's kind of what they would look like from far away. Um, because when they're going across the sky, that the satellite, it will gain color or lose brightness when it's going away from the sun. But you'll notice that with some of them, they don't. Like they don't behave or act like what you would see normally. And then especially once you get the telescope on them, you can really see. It's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, that's really interesting, especially what you're saying about satellites, how they, kind of lose color as they're going away from the sun. So it just
Uh-huh.
kind of says, I might be seeing something unusual here. So that's pretty interesting. It's also cool you have a telescope and a good camera. So
Yeah.
you sent me some pictures, some amazing pictures, which we'll clip into here. So an audience to see that, they'll see the pictures. So I think they're gonna find that pretty interesting. How long how long was this going on for? That you were seeing these specific objects? And
Um,
were you seeing the drones at like the drones that people were seeing that kind of looked like airplanes at the same time as you were seeing these orbs?
um, I haven't really seen very much of the drones, honestly. Like I even just pretty much from the very beginning, I kind of, in my own opinion, no, I kind of came to the conclusion that it didn't really have nothing to do with drones. That like kind of, you know, it seems like drone is like the new word for UFO or
Yeah,
UAP or whatever.
absolutely.
Like these are, but it seems to me is that like because when you say drone, you think of like four propellers, whatever, and I don't think it has anything to do with what you would think of when you say drone.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because even now I find myself saying drones. And I don't even really
Yeah.
mean drones per se. I just mean whatever those unusual things were in the sky. But you're right, we've been like conditioned to just call them drones. So it is. It's almost replacing the word UAP or UFO. And maybe that's what they planned all along, the government or whoever was behind these so-called drones or UFOs or whatever they were. But so that's pretty interesting because I never even thought of that until right now, really. So take us through. So this wasn't just a one night thing, right?
No, yeah, you see them pretty much every night. I mean, not every single night, but just about. And it depends on how long you're out there, because obviously the longer you're out there, the more likely you're able to see something. Like there was some nights where I'm pretty much sitting outside almost all night. So, um, yeah, I would see them pretty often, I would say, depending on night to night or
So are we
but they
talking
would always
weeks?
yeah, at least over a week or more. And a lot of the times they would be like rather far away, not necessarily very close. There was a couple of times where I wasn't able to get it on recording or anything, but they did fly by. I couldn't believe I sound almost like silly even talking about it, but it flew by like it felt like within feet above my house and it just flew
Oh
by
wow.
in like the blink of an eye, pretty much just a flash of light across the sky. And it like, oh, it might have been a meteor, but I really don't think so because it was on a perfect, horizontal path.
Right, meteors aren't horizontal. They're coming down maybe at an angle, but
Yeah, it was
not
extremely
horizontal.
low. And I felt exactly like with the Jake Barber and the egg and everything. And I felt this happened before that came out. And I felt exactly the same way that he said when it came to about like feeling lots of like pretty much like tears of not like negative tears, like positive. Like I was just overwhelmed with emotion after it flew by me. It was like the most incredible thing.
Wow. Yeah, we've been hearing more of that lately, and it seems like there might be something to that. Now, when you got those feelings, was it just that one time, or was it every time you saw them?
It, no, it was only that was the only time I felt like that because it was the closest it ever was. Like that was the closest it ever was, and that was the only time I felt like that.
It makes you wonder. I wonder, like, maybe if it knew that you were seeing it over a period of time, and then maybe through reading whatever you were feeling or thinking at the time, that it did lower itself and get closer to you to try to communicate with you spiritually or something like that. Did you ever think like that? Maybe it was
What
communicating with you.
that well, that's the other thing too, is like I never thought like this is one thing that I definitely was not into whatsoever, like kind of like, oh, communicating with it or like consciously or anything like that. But now it's like the more I look into it and the more I think about what happened is it seems like it makes a lot of sense to me the more I look into stuff like that. I don't know. It's very interesting to think about that perhaps it's, somehow communicating or going off your feelings and such. Because I've been listening to Stephen Greer a lot ever since a lot of this started happening. I like, see what he has to say. And I did buy the CE5 app, and that's when I got the video that I most recently sent you was from my
Okay.
phone. That was the first time I was ever able to record it on my phone because it was close enough and bright enough. And if you look at the recording on my phone, it it to me it looks like it completely like corroborates the other pictures.
Yeah, I
It's a
agree.
center, it's like a center bright ball with kind of like an aura, but then there's other balls of light swirling around it. And you can see it in all the different pictures on the telescope and from my phone camera.
Yeah, the pictures you caught and the video, they were pretty compelling. I mean, they obviously were not a quote unquote drone.
Oh yeah.
And they deferred completely from when I went to New Jersey, and I did see drones in the sky, things that kind of resembled airplanes, and there was quite a few of them, but they looked nothing like what you caught. What you caught could never be construed as an airplane or a drone. It was most certainly an orb, something, or at least close to an orb, or what you would call an
Oh
orb.
yeah, definitely.
So I wonder, since people were seeing orbs as well, and there are people out there who think they are one and the same, that these orbs were changing shape and changing their structure. And at one moment they could be looking like a man-made drone, and the next moment it was an orb or ball of light. You think that something like that would be possible?
Yeah, I've heard stuff like that, and honestly, I mean, I just feel like a lot of stuff that I might have been closed-minded to, I would say I've been wrong about. So I'm kind of hesitant to dismiss anything. I mean, not, I mean, obviously something might be completely crazy, but I mean, if they could be up there doing whatever they're doing, I mean, I guess it's not the craziest idea.
I'm completely with you. A few years ago, I've always been into UFOs. I don't know if you're younger than me, you might not know who Art Bell is. But if not, I highly encourage you do you know who Art Bell is?
No, I never heard of them.
So he used to host a radio show called Coast to Coast. He died a few years ago, but all his old shows are on YouTube and Spotify. Highly recommend Google or searching them on YouTube or whatever.
I definitely
Um,
will.
So basically, he had a radio show. It was on like basically 5 nights a week or more. It would come on at midnight and it would go till like 3 or 4 in the morning. And it was every night. It was about a different subject, but they were 99.9% of the time they were cryptids like Bigfoot or werewolves or UFOs. A lot of it was UFO based. So that's how I got into it and as a kid. But even until just a year ago, if you told me people could summon UFOs, I would have thought that was crazy. I would have never. I'm like, oh,
That's yes,
that's
yes,
the
yes.
crazy wing. I believed in UFOs, but I thought there was like a sane wing of people who are studying the science of it and actual science. And then there's like the crazy people who were summoning it. And
That's exactly how I used it. That's exactly it.
yep. And now as time goes by, you know, you're not in a rush to throw anything out.
Hmm.
What I say all the time, the only thing I'm completely sure about when it comes to UFOs is that I'm not sure about anything. And as time goes by, it just proves that more and more. So yeah, but don't forget, check out Art Bell. It'll keep you entertained for hours or years.
I
So
definitely will.
when you were seeing these things, did you tell any of your friends, neighbors, your family? What did they think about it? And did any other people, were any others there with you when you were seeing this? So were there any other witnesses?
Yeah, I had a few of my friends would see it with me, or like my aunt or my cousin. Not anything crazy. I mean, when I say they would see it, I mean like, because like a lot of the time, like with the pictures from the telescope, like they're rather far away. So like when you're looking at them just with your eye, it just looks like a star moving across the sky. Like I've shown them, seen them that, and my wife has seen it and everything. And then, of course, I have the telescope; they can look through it, but it's hard. It's not necessarily easy to, because they're moving fast, and you're trying to get them with the telescope and stay on them. If you stop moving even for a second, you lose them. Or like some of the videos I took are kind of shaky, and just because every little shake only gets, magnified.
Yep, I see all the time. Why can't anybody get a decent video of a UFO? It's a lot harder than you would think. I've tried.
It
All the
definitely
videos
is.
are grainy, moving. It's a lot harder. It's a lot harder than people think it is.
I
Um,
definitely learned that the hard way.
yeah, exactly. Me too. And you got some really good video, which we'll definitely include in the show, so people can see it as well. So any idea why do you? Any guesses as to why this was over New Jersey mainly? Like, what is it about New Jersey you think that caused this to happen?
I really don't know why it would be New Jersey. I mean, I would think perhaps, whoever knows whatever's in charge of, I mean, that who knows whose they even are. I mean, if they're ours, then maybe New Jersey's just some top secret testing place or but then like
Right.
everyone would say, well, that's kind of weird because why would you pick New Jersey? Which I mean, it is true. It's like one of the most populated states for how small it is.
Yep, I said the same thing when all this was going on. If these were ours and they were some sort of secret test, why wouldn't we be doing it over the ocean or over bases that we have in the desert out in the West?
Yeah,
Why
there's
would
like
they
a
pick the
million other
most densely
places.
populated state in the country to be testing secret military tech? Just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, so sometimes I think about what I've also kind of been going down the rabbit hole in a little bit is, like the like a breakaway or civilization or like I see a lot of stuff. I don't know if you've ever heard of Robert Seffer, but I've been watching him a lot.
No, I'm not familiar with him. What's
Um
his deal?
well he talks about a lot of different things, but he talks a lot about like the Nazis in World War II and about like the secret technology and a bunch of different things like that. And, he kind of makes the argument or shows stuff that Hitler and the high ranking officials, but they had functioning UFOs. And the long story short is at the end of World War II, they secretly escaped to Antarctica and
Oh,
they
yeah, I've
had
heard that. Yep, I have
UFO
heard that.
technology and whatnot. And
Yep.
that they kind of have their own civilization completely separate from the rest of the world. So maybe they want to show it off in front of everybody, go to a populated
Yeah,
place and put
definitely
on a
could be. I
show.
don't know if you're familiar. Actually, the first head of Nazi or the first head of NASA was a Nazi scientist. Did you know that?
Yeah, I heard that. Yeah,
Yeah,
because
it's
well, and like part of the theory too is like they say that like they went to the moon before us, for example, because they developed the UFO technology and went to the moon before us. Is something else that he
wow.
says.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
never heard that. I'm gonna have to check
and
that guy
and
out. It's
and
interesting.
it's also so interesting because that's also kind of what got me kickstarted on the whole psychic thing because he goes into this whole thing about how Hitler was actually hiring people from the Vril Society and the Thule Society, and they were supposed to be psychics, and they were able to communicate with the aliens like while meditating and stuff. So it almost goes exactly with what we are just
Oh,
talking about
wow.
earlier. Yeah, it's
No,
actually in crazy like the similarity because like everything that he was doing, like that's what is coming out now. It seems like to me at least.
that is really, and I never heard that, and
Yeah.
that's almost mind blowing because it took how many, what, 60, 70 years, however many years later it is from the 1920s, 30s, and 40s, and now the same information is coming out that many years later. That's incredible.
Well, because one of the UFOs was called the Vril 7 or the Vril 14, one of the conceptual Nazi flying saucers, and that's because it the Vril comes from the Vril Society, and they supposedly were in contact with aliens, and they gave them plans and details on how to build the UFO and like the anti-gravity technology. And it was supposed to be like she got it in some I think it was Sanskrit, and like she didn't know the language, but like she just wrote down whatever she thought she should write down, and when they translated it, it was the plans for the craft. Bunch of crazy stuff.
Wow. Yeah, that is pretty interesting. I'm definitely going to do some research on that. That's opening up a whole new rabbit hole for me to jump into.
Yeah, I think he's a really good resource, Robert Seffer. He has a bunch of good videos on that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I will definitely check him out. So in the beginning, how did you feel the moment you realized you were seeing something unusual? Were you excited? A little scared? What were you feeling like?
I was super excited, honestly. I was really
I
excited.
bet.
I felt like the world like kind of changed for me. Like I kind of saw the world differently for sure. And then it was
Yeah.
also eye-opening how many people don't care or like pretty much could never be convinced, if that makes sense, like, too busy with this or that to really care about, a UFO or anything like that. Like, oh, what's that got to do with paying the bills or doing whatever? Couldn't be interested less.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I'm like you, I'm into it almost 24/7. I'm researching something about UFOs. But yeah, and then I talk to other people, like family members, friends, and you could talk to them for 5 minutes about it and they talk about it, but then they just go on with their lives. Like, especially with all this
Exactly.
stuff that's coming out recently with government whistleblowers and the government pretty much admitting that UFOs are a thing and people still don't care.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. It's really weird how that is because I said that too before, like just talking to my friends, whatever, how that if even half of this stuff came out in the not so far past, like it would have been a wrap. Like everybody would have, it would have been an instant consensus, like aliens, UFOs. Now it's like all this stuff comes out and nobody cares. Everyone's too busy or too distracted or just lost interest.
Yep, I think that's maybe kind of what the internet did to people. Um, People are so wound up in social media and whatever they have going on in their own lives that attention spans don't go for like more than a minute at a time. So you switch apps and start looking at something different or watching a different video. But that's the only thing I could think of because 30 years ago, 20 years ago, if half, like you just said, if half of what came out then that came out now, it would be on the cover of every newspaper. It would be the conversation around every dinner table. But now, unless you're on UFO Twitter or something like that, you don't hear a word about it.
Yep, exactly.
So, I think we are getting closer to some form of disclosure from the government, or some form of mass sighting. Like, have you heard the 2027 rumors of a mass sighting coming in 2027 or
I heard
catastrophic disclosure?
I heard something about that. What was that in the Chris Bledsoe interview with Sean Ryan? He said something about that, I think, right? Like the star lines up with the Sphinx or something.
Right. So there's a few different theories. Some people say 2025, some people say 2026, other people say 2027. And I paid attention to it, but not quite as much. I don't know if you heard recently. You know who Lou Elizondo is, the whistleblower?
Yeah, I've heard of them.
So he was just on a show a few days ago, and he said he's actually in the process. He lives in the state of Wyoming, and he's in the process of building a bunker. So if Lou Elizondo, who was the head of the UFO program for the Pentagon, he was the head of ATIP and OSAP, which were government UFO programs. So if a guy that's in the know, like he is building a bunker on his land in Wyoming, that tells me maybe there is something to it, and maybe people should be getting prepared. And I always say it's better to have something and not need it than need it and not have it.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think, I mean, I think I'd be down for building a bunker no matter what. You said, being
Oh
prepared.
yeah.
I've been kind of into, like being as prepared as I can just in general, even before I got into this stuff. But it definitely is interesting if he's building a bunker. It seems like everyone's building a bunker though, like what's Mark Zuckerberg. I mean, everybody's building bunkers. It seems like everybody thinks that something
Something's gonna
is
happen.
coming. Yeah.
Yeah, so every day that goes by makes me think a little more. Maybe there is something to these rumors, and maybe so much has been coming out from whistleblowers and media members that this is a slow roll of disclosure, and that they're leaking out a little bit at a time, getting people ready for some mass event that's going to happen in say 2027.
Yeah, well, I mean, I know what's it, like I said, I like Stephen Greer. I like to listen to him and because he talks about that they're gonna do a false alien invasion and whatnot. That's kind of what comes to mind about thinking about this stuff.
Yeah, I think Stephen Greer adds a lot to the discussion. He's been at it for a long time. As we were talking about Art Bell. He used to go on Art Bell as well. He was on
Oh, really?
quite a few times talking about disclosure. Only thing that's why I like listening to a wide variety of voices. Like I like George Knapp and Jeremy Corbell. I think they're doing great work. I think Richard Dolan is doing great work, and other people as well. Ross Coulthart as well from News Nation. Um, and so it's good, and you hear different things from, like, say, the Stephen Greer side of things versus not versus, but and then the George Knapp side of things. It's not like different teams, but they do have somewhat different perspectives. Like Stephen Greer, I think monetizes his information a lot. Like, how much was that
Yeah.
CE5? Was it quite a bit, or
Um,
was it not much?
um, it was $10. And I actually, well, yeah, it was
Wow,
ten
that's not
dollars,
bad.
and yeah, and I also like that it's a one-time purchase. I hate, like you can never
Recurring.
really own it. You gotta pay. I like it's just like one and done. You pay for it, it's yours.
Well,
It's only
that's
ten
not bad.
bucks,
If it was
so
only ten
yeah,
dollars, then that's completely
yeah,
reasonable.
yeah.
Maybe I was thinking of I think I was thinking of his in-person classes that he gives. I think they're
Okay,
pretty pricey, but everybody's got to earn a living.
yeah.
So yeah, nothing against Stephen Greer. I think he contributes a lot to the conversation as well.
I like what he says about kind of how that which I think it's true, like that how it could be a man-made UFO. It could be, a government anti-gravity vehicle, or it could be some type of orb, like with the consciousness or things like that. Which it seems like there is more than one type
Yep.
of thing flying around in the sky. It definitely seems like there's more than one type of thing going on. It's not just one thing that you're seeing over and over again. It's a couple of different things. It seems like.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think there are some of them are, excuse me, I have a cold. Um, I think some of them are ours that we've reverse engineered from UAP craft we've captured. And then I also think there could be different species of NHI slash
Oh,
UAP.
definitely.
So maybe some crafts look different, and just like us, we have B-52 bombers, we have fighter jets, we have transport planes, we have 100 different kinds of planes. So why wouldn't an advanced civilization have different kinds of craft as well? Which explains the orbs, and then you're going into a whole new rabbit holes too, because we were talking about the orbs and how they may transform into things that look like drones or airplanes. So if that's true, they could transform into just about anything.
Yeah, it's weird because, like when you think about something that's so much more advanced than us, it's kind of like what's not possible, I mean, if you were to take anything that we have today and bring it back a couple hundred years ago, you would be a wizard. You would be the alien,
Right.
like you.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah,
and you
I
think
like
that they're
that.
so much more advanced. It's, I mean, who knows what they've got going on, And that, also though, with in regards to like the government reverse engineering, it just makes my blood boil even thinking about that they have done this and kept it a secret. That's like the biggest crime in the whole world.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. To have evidence that we're not alone in the universe, or that we're not alone on Earth, that they've been here with us the whole time, if that were true, or if it were possible to travel between dimensions, if that were true, um, it's almost a crime against humanity for them to
Oh,
keep it secret
100%.
like that. And there's only two reasons that I could think of. One, for profit, for monetary reasons, or the truth is so dangerous that they feared the truth getting out and causing a severe mass panic to people if it were to be bad. Those are the only two reasons I could think of why they would want to keep it secret.
Yeah, I mean, I I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I lean towards the fact of like the Earth being just like a big prison planet or something, like enslaving the whole human race, because it's like I mean, like, how could it cause a mass panic to say you have access to free and unlimited energy? I mean, like, you could, there's nothing you couldn't do if that was true. I mean, you could go to any planet, you could go, I mean, you could have a bunch of different planets, you could do anything.
Right, I agree. Then you got to think of religion, how it may play into religion. If people were to find out maybe that there is no like God as we know it, and that these UAP is how religion's developed, and there's so many different aspects to it. But I could see, maybe there is ways that it would cause people to lose hope, and I've heard whistleblowers say, I can't remember who right now, but saying that if the truth ever came out, that people would kind of there might be mass unalives, people unaliving themselves,
Uh-huh.
and things like that. That's how serious that the truth actually is. Which kind of leads like you were saying, maybe there, we are just housing units for our souls, or what we really are, and you know, what scares people is what happens after we pass away, and so the whole conversation can get really, really deep on what it could be, and there's so many theories out there. Do you have any theories that you think are they interdimensional? Are they from other planets? Have they been living under the oceans or on the earth or underground? Any theories you find interesting?
Yeah, I mean, well, I think it's a combination, like you said, I think that I do, you know, I think that they probably are. If they're underground, I would say under the ocean, perhaps, or like you said, in Antarctica, like we talked about earlier, maybe something like that. And I'm sure they must be coming here from other planets and stuff with advanced technology. And because, that's the other thing is, like supposedly after we started doing nuclear testing is when they started getting a lot more activity. And so I would think that they could probably detect that from really far away. And it was probably like a clear signal of like, we got to go, check out what they're doing. Like, just kind of like the analogy of like we do it here on Earth, like go and check out an uncontacted tribe or something. We're like an
Exactly.
uncontacted planet, so they just come here, check on us, see what we're doing. Especially once they start, picking up the kind of stuff we're up to on the planet, puts us on
Right.
their radar.
Yeah, I agree for sure, especially with the nuclear aspect of it. If they have been here the whole time, or if they do have some interest in our planet and they see the nuclear technology that we're developing, and the way we humans are, how violent we are, and how violent we can be, you know, maybe they're not as concerned about us per se. Maybe they're concerned about the planet.
Yeah, that's definitely a thought too. They want to, keep the planet safe and everything, stop us from destroying it. But then again, it's like when it comes to that, it's like the simple, obvious solution of like give us the free energy, kind of solves all the problems. You know what I mean? So like it seems like a simple solution. So I don't know why, they wouldn't do it. I mean, or maybe that's the problem. They gave it to the government. The government said, we'll do the right thing with this information, and they didn't. The only thing I
Right.
could
So
think of.
I almost wish they'd come down already, because obviously we as human beings, we need a parent. Because obviously we can't be left to our own devices because all we do is fight with each other and cause harm to each other. So maybe we need a parent to come down and give us that free energy and kind of like, I don't know, like a new world order, a new world government, but it's not people, it's UFOs. And they say, all right, if you guys can't get along and live on this planet peacefully, we're going to have to force you to do it. And anybody that doesn't want to play along and live peacefully, well, there's other options for you. So it's kind of interesting to think about. Maybe the whole nuclear aspect of it, they're like, okay, humans are not evolving to the point emotionally and spiritually and whatever. Our brains are not evolving. Our brains are evolving slower than our technology. So while we have the technology to destroy the whole planet, um, our brains aren't developing farther enough to not make us do it. So maybe they're afraid we are gonna destroy the planet that they have an interest in, and then we just gotta hope that they have enough of an interest in us where they just don't completely wipe us off the planet and say, all right, now there's no danger at all. So who knows? Hopefully, we find out what the real story is eventually.
Yeah, I think that they probably have some kind of interest in, keeping us alive, or at the very least, just not wanting to kill us. I mean, like it's like if you see like I don't know, like I see a little mouse run by and it was stuck somewhere and I just let it go. You know what I mean? It's kind of like they might even just be almost indifferent, just, look at these people, look at them, keep going or
Yeah, that's if I had to pick, that's kind of what I would say. I would think they're probably more interested in the planet than they are us. Um, but who knows what the truth is? Again, the only thing I'm sure about with UFOs is that I'm not sure of anything. So,
He, yeah, the whole thing's just gotten crazy. Like I said, I've just been going down the rabbit hole ever since I first started going into this stuff. And like I said, the whole consciousness thing I would have thought was silly, but and that's what I meant too. Like when I did the app, it sounds crazy, but I actually think it worked. I genuinely think it worked because after doing the CE5 app, that's when I got the orb on my phone. It was incredibly close and it was really bright. It's the closest I've ever besides when it the one time when I said it flew over my head. Other than that, it was very close and it wasn't going very fast, but it was not flying in any kind of regular way.
so when you say when you said it, how high above your house was it? Like just a couple feet or like hundreds of feet?
Like when it flew right above my house, and I said that I felt all the emotions and whatnot.
Yeah.
I would say, I mean, it was incredibly close. Like I was in shock at how close it was. I would say it must have only been it couldn't have been more than 50 feet above my house. I mean, it looked like it was so close that it was gonna trim my trees, honestly. Like I don't really think it could have been any lower.
Were you able to see any colors on it?
It was gone, in the blink of an eye just about. It just
So
looked
it was
like a
going really fast.
yeah, just a big bright light and it just, streaked by very quickly. And also though, I mean, like it was completely silent. I mean, it was incredibly fast, but it was also incredibly. It didn't make not one single sound.
Wow. Was it just like a ball of light, like a line of light, or were you able to see any kind of
A line of
solid
light. I couldn't.
object?
No, I couldn't see anything. It was just a line of light because it was so low and so fast. It was gone in a second, really.
Right. Were you able to detect if it any kind of like wind? Were any trees blowing or anything like that when it went by? Or
Um,
it just happened so
I
fast
didn't
you
take.
couldn't?
Yeah, it just happened so fast. But that's a good question though. I don't know. Because I heard
And
something about that, like, oh, it would make the wind blow. But I see, a lot of people make the argument that it's kind of in its own bubble where that's why when you're inside of it, you don't feel G forces, that's why they can go through the water and it doesn't displace the water, or they're not making a wake and they can go very fast in the water because they're almost there, but not there because their craft is in like a like an electromagnetic bubble. Honestly, that's other one more thing I forgot to mention too was most of these UFOs when I look at them, they look like they're in a plasma bubble. I mean that's the best way to describe it is they completely surround themselves in some kind of energy, like some kind of it looks like I said plasma.
Yeah, that's definitely possible. And who knows what technology they have. If they are coming from other planets, they need to have some sort of heat shield to, go in and out of our atmosphere. Or who knows what kind of tech you need to go through
Well, that's what I
dimensions.
mean. They don't really interact. Like that's what I mean. Like they're not really interacting with the atmosphere. Like I said, they're in their it's almost like they're in their own little bubble. Like they're there, but they're not. And that's why they can go through the water the same way they go through the air because it's
Right.
all the same.
Right. No craft that I've ever heard of without like doing what you just said could travel through the water the same it could through the air. It's physically impossible, especially without
Exactly.
displacing any water. It just goes against every law of physics that we know.
Yeah, and you
So,
see them saying it on the news and stuff about it going through the water. Forget how fast they said, but incredibly fast.
right, Representative Tim Burchett just said somebody in the Navy, like high ranking, told him one of our ships, picked up a like enormous object in the water going like hundreds of miles an hour underneath the water. And he said that
Yeah,
whatever it was like the size of a couple football fields.
yeah, that's incredible. And it makes me think is, like when the New Jersey drone thing first started happening, I forget the one congressman from New Jersey, maybe Jeff Van Drew, saying that it was the Iranian mothership and everything else. And I mean, I obviously
Yeah, I
don't.
didn't buy
Yeah, no,
that.
I don't think that either. But it makes me think he must have known something to say they're coming from the water, though. Like, if that makes sense, you know what I mean? Like, I don't
Right.
believe the Iranian drone ship or Iran or nothing like that. But I do think it's like, why did he something made him think they're coming from the water, which then I would say they're coming from under the water in some sort of secret base or something, perhaps.
Absolutely. And when all that was going on, the Coast Guard said they witnessed 50 of those, whatever they were, drones, orbs, whatever the hell they were. 50 of them came out of the water and were flying above the Coast Guard ship.
I believe it.
So,
That
yeah,
I've seen a bunch of them at once. The first time I ever seen them was when I seen a whole bunch of them at once.
really? Oh, tell me
Yeah.
about that.
That was the first time I ever seen them. What I was telling you originally about, we were at the Christmas parade, and that was when my friend first ever told me about them, and we were there looking at them, and I just seen a bunch of them. They went, like I said, they went one way, and then they came back the other way, and ever since I saw that, that's what got me down to then. Now I'm gonna be out there, looking and looking.
How many of them would you say there were?
At least 10, I would say.
And were you able to tell, were they kind of flying in coordination with each other?
Whenever there's more than one, they're always flying in like some form of coordination with the other ones. They never are just like flying randomly. If that makes sense.
And how many times would you say you saw more than one at a time?
Not that many times, but maybe two or three, perhaps. I've seen a couple times where it would be two of them and they would be flying perfectly with each other. Two of
Okay.
them.
Did you ever see them like come together and split apart? Like, because I've heard reports that they'll be something will be flying and then it'll all of a sudden split in two. Did you ever see anything like
Yeah,
that?
I've seen stuff like that. I don't think so. I don't think I've seen anything like that. I was always looking for it, but I don't think I've seen anything like that. There was a couple times where I thought I might have, but when I looked back on it, I think it was just like it wasn't really it, just some sort of
Could have
I
been a
think it
trick
might
of the
have been.
light,
Yeah,
something
exactly.
like that. Were you ever able to see any kind of solid craft, or was it always just like an orb?
Um, the closest thing to a solid craft was when those pictures that I took with them because that's because they would normally look, it looks like an orb, and then with those pictures, that was the first time where, like I said, to me, I mean, it looks like very extremely convincing to me, where you can see the solid something in the center with the swirling lights around it. So,
After your any sightings, did you ever see any kind of military presence or any law enforcement or military like in response?
not necessarily in response, but at least two times I seen like a plane, or like a military jet, I would say. The one time more notably than the other, but it flew by, I would say pretty low and very, very fast. And it had no lights whatsoever. Like no lights,
Oh,
no blinking lights, no anything. And it flew by pretty quick, but you could tell for sure that it was some kind of jet or plane. And and it did have a sound. The sound came like a little while after because it was definitely going faster than the speed of sound. And that's the other thing too, is like I feel like since I've been out there so much, I'm pretty good at discerning different things. So, like that was a jet because one, I could just see it, and two, like it made noise. You know what I mean? Like after however long the sonic boom and you heard it go by and whatnot. But when it comes to the orbs, they're always silent, no matter how fast, how slow, how close, how far. They don't make any noise ever.
right. So you're able to tell the difference. Would you think it was a fighter jet? Is that
The
what?
one that flew by, oh yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Okay. And that's interesting because I can't think of a single reason outside of something abnormal that a military jet would be flying with no lights. As a matter of
Yeah, it
fact,
had
it's
no lights
against military
whatsoever.
protocol and it's against FAA regulations that jets do not fly with no lights. So the
And
only
and this
reason
was
I could
like real
think
late
that
at
it would be
night.
doing that is that it was trying to, not give itself away.
Yeah, and like I said, it was real late at night. Real late at night flew by, and it had to have been going fast because like I almost forgot about it, and then I heard the sound a little while after.
That's definitely interesting. Because I talked to somebody when I went there to investigate. I met up with the contact I have, and he told me as a very close relative who works at Picatinny Arsenal, um, and his relative told him it was his brother. Um, told him that they've been trying to that the Air Force or whoever the military were launching flights trying to identify them or drive them out of the area or whatever they were trying to do, but that whatever these things were, they were leaving our fighter jets in the dust, and that we couldn't keep up. And no man-made drone that I've ever heard of could outfly a fighter jet, whether it be an F-16,
Yeah,
an F-18, an F-22, or whatever. It just doesn't happen.
yeah, definitely. And I know how earlier you said about if they flew by like with the fighter jets after the orbs or whatever, but I have seen them kind of flying by like a regular plane because where I live, there are a good amount of planes in the sky, like there's planes, flying whatever.
Oh
But
yeah,
like I
there's
said, they're
lots of airports.
yeah, they're very easy to distinguish, and I have seen the orbs like seemingly flying like it seemed it's hard to tell at night with distance and perspective and things, but I mean, seemingly flying close to a regular plane or something, perhaps. And I mean, it just completely leaves it in the dust. It doesn't have any chance of even keeping up at all.
Right. Yeah, when I was there, I live like almost next door to an airport. So I see planes like everybody does. You live near a bunch of airports. We know when we look up in the sky, what's an airplane?
Yeah,
What
exactly.
I saw, they were flying way too low to be an airplane. They were flying incredibly too slow. They were almost like hovering, but very slowly moving. And they were all around. Anytime you'd see 7 to 10 or more at any one time you looked up. And I've never seen airplanes behave that way. Even though there is like LaGuardia, there's Newark, there's Kennedy, but these were not any airplanes that I have ever seen. And the definition of unusual is I've never seen anything like it before. I've never seen anything like it after. And that's what I saw when I was in New Jersey. So I think there might be something to the orb thing because right at the same time, a lot of people were seeing orbs, and then a lot of people were seeing these drones things, and that was right at the same time. So, what are the odds? What are the chances that they were two completely separate things happening right at the exact same time?
Yeah,
Seems
my
hard to
well,
believe.
yeah, exactly. And my one buddy, he was in the Navy and pretty much just completely agreeing with everything you just said. He said he was in the Navy and that he's seen all kinds of planes and everything else, and that the stuff he's been seeing, like, and he lives, right down the street, whatever, and they're not. He said it's not drones or anything else like that. And I'm pretty much convinced that, like I said, the word drone was just I don't think they want it to get out for whatever reason. They don't want to get it out. And I think that once people started seeing the orbs and started seeing stuff that couldn't be explained, they just intentionally, like, if there was ever a case to use the word mis or disinformation, it would be in this exact circumstance where they're intentionally spreading mis and disinformation. And the mis and disinformation is drones. It's people posting pictures literally of airplanes saying that,
Yeah,
that's just what it seems like.
I completely agree. The explanation that came from the last administration was nonsense. The explanation we got from this administration is nonsense.
Nonsense.
That they're
Yep.
all FAA approved flights. Like you're insulting our
And
intelligence. We all know these weren't just standard drones flying around like our
and
everyday.
and also, I took
It's
pictures of
insulting.
it. I took pictures of it that there was over like 20 temporary flight restrictions in all these different places in New Jersey, like practically the whole state just about. They put up
Yep,
they like why would they put up a temporary flight restriction for drones that they know? Like if they knew about it the whole time, why are they saying they don't know then putting up the flight restrictions?
exactly. There was 22 flight restrictions in New Jersey. There was 29 flight restrictions in New York. Also, over Langley Air Force Base. Now, this is in Virginia, but these were not the drone situation was in other states as well, and they were so concerned about it that they literally relocated our F-22 fighter jets to other bases because they were afraid that these drones were collecting intel on our fighter jets. So, if these were FAA approved or these were government drones, why would the Air Force have a need to scramble fighter jets and get them to other bases if these were ours to begin with?
And there's also reports like in the UK of, again, drones being
Yep,
spotted over certain bases in the UK and stuff, and it's like, but it's just nothing though.
exactly. I'm going to have a guest on in the coming weeks. He lives almost next door to one of those bases. I believe it's Lakenheath in the UK, and he's been documenting it from the beginning. You know, the drone, he has a scanner or whatever. You can listen to the comms from the base. Um, but he's been documenting when the drones are over the base and what the military's response to them is. So, scrambling fighter jets, trying to jam them to bring them down, stuff like that. So, yeah, it was going. Also, to come back to the United States, if these were FAA approved, right? So, say over Picatinny Arsenal or Naval Weapons Station Earl, also in New Jersey, so if these were FAA approved flights or government drones, and they were going to be over violating the airspace of our military bases, don't you think somebody in the government or the FAA say, "Hey, we're going to have drones over the base, nothing to get concerned about. We're just studying the weather or whatever the hell they're supposed to be doing." I mean, it's impossible for me to believe that these are government drones, but nobody in the government phoned the base commanders of these military bases to let them know. It just would never happen.
Yeah, the whole thing, it's just ridiculous because it's like, I mean, what, they really think we're just like so extremely stupid, like that we don't know that they're lying, that none of this stuff makes sense, like that anyone who really looks into it, you're going to come to the same conclusion that they're lying. I mean, you can't say, like, you don't know necessarily what the truth is, but it's not what they're saying.
Absolutely. So, some people believe the drone invasion was a cover up for something else. Do you think the sightings, including your sightings, could be related to a larger event, maybe? And this was kind of like a warm up to something bigger?
No, I don't think so at all. I mean, I don't think anything could be bigger than this. I mean, if you're talking about aliens or UFOs, I mean, I don't think anything could be bigger than that.
Well, I guess I mean this was like a warm up for them to actually show up in mass and land on the White House lawn, sort of deal. Maybe
Oh,
this
well,
was
yeah, I
gauging
mean,
people's reactions.
I think it definitely could have been that for sure. Yeah, definitely. Like you said, seeing how people react, testing the waters, and that just goes back to, that that they might perhaps do a alien invasion, but it's not really aliens, it's them, you know. Like it'll be
Right.
real alien technology, like super advanced, crazy technology. Like you would think it was an alien, but it's really the government, so they can usher in some sort of totalitarian
Right.
rule.
Right. Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked. And here's a question for you. So, since you had that event, did any have anything unusual happen? Any kind of like strange dreams, missing time, no visits from the
So
Men in Black?
no, I I reported this stuff to the MUFON. And
Okay.
the representative, he did get back to me, and he did say that he's like, oh, be careful because this is, these are some really good pictures and videos, and he said, be careful, the Men in Black don't come after you. And he told me to.
Right.
I got a bunch of USB flash drives, and I backed up everything just in case. But the only weird thing I would say, but this also, which I don't know if it coincides, like if it's just a coincidence or what, but I had an out of body experience completely by accident. Um, I can't remember if it was right before the drones or right after, but it was in the same, in the same time period. But it was just completely by accident one day. I went to bed and I don't ever dream. Like I just close my eyes, it just snap of a fingers, wake up the next morning. I don't really ever dream. It would be very rare. And I went to bed and I woke up and I was looking down at myself, and it was realer than real. I
Wow.
mean, it was as real as me and you talking right now. Like everything was perfect, the way I was laying, the bed, everything. And I was looking down at myself, but obviously not like from a different perspective is what I would say. And it was a very scary experience. Like, I mean, looking back on it, I wouldn't say it was scary. I would say I wish I either way, at the time, it panicked me and scared me very much. It only lasted a few seconds, and once I got panicked and scared, I woke up back in bed. And it's never happened again ever since. And that's what got me to download the CE5 and get into this stuff more because I've been trying to do it again, but I haven't been able to though. And it happened completely by accident. I wasn't trying to do it. It was just completely luck.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I've heard there's things you can do. I don't know what they are. Like, not to go back to Art Bell, but he was a very strong believer in out of body experiences. And he would have guests on that were like experts at it, like telling you exactly what, you need to do to practice. So maybe Google that. I'm sure you can find a lot of stuff online, but I do believe in out of body experiences. Um, we
I
only
definitely believe it.
use yeah, right, for sure. You've had it. So we only use 10%, whatever I forget what the number is, but let's just say 10% of our brain. Why would we have a brain that has 100% capacity, but we're only using like 6% or 10, whatever the percentage is? It's like barely anything. It's like not much, it's not very high, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So why would we have a brain that has 100% capacity, but we're only using 10, 20% of that capacity? What's beyond the capacity that we have? Is there some kind of like unlocking enlightenment in that out of body experiences? Is like maybe you pushing past that 10% number and you're now utilizing 15% of your brain or 20% of your brain, and what goes beyond that? I just find that very interesting. Like, what is the rest of our brain used for if we're only using X percentage of it?
Yeah, I never thought about it, I guess, like that, like maybe using more or less. I don't know. I don't really know. Like I said, I kind of think of it as like, with the astral projecting, whatever you want to call it. It's whatever you is more than just, your physical body. And
Right.
whatever's happening when you do that is kind of what you really are kind of interacting or going back or experiencing. It would have to be realer than real life if it's, you know what I mean? Like if you're only
Yeah.
in a physical body, you live for a certain amount of time, but your soul lives forever, then that would mean that whatever you're doing is, like I said, almost realer than real life.
Exactly. Maybe we all have the answer to everything already. And it's just that we have that wall up in our brain or soul. So I think it's kind of all connected. But maybe there's some kind of wall up where there's certain things you can do to push that wall back further and further and further until you get to the point where you're enlightened or whatever, and you find the key to what it all means and what these NHI non-human intelligence are. Maybe it's godlike because there's this. I don't know if you've ever heard of the lady, they call it. Have you ever heard
Um,
that?
the first time I heard of it was from that Chris Bledsoe interview. That was the
Yeah.
first time I heard of it.
And I think there's something to it because Jim Semivan, who was a CIA officer for the CIA for a very long time, he came out and said the DIA, the CIA, um, basically every intelligence alphabet we have in the government was trying to get close to Chris Bledsoe because he had interactions with the lady. And I think the lady is supernatural or NHI, alien, or a fully enlightened being, but maybe that's what's at the end of our brain. Maybe that is what the end of our soul is that enlightenment or the lady or something like that. I just find it very fascinating to think about. Maybe we have the answer the whole time. And for some reason, either somebody else put the block in our brain or we did it ourselves over decades and centuries. But it's cool to think about, I think.
Yeah, I definitely think that's very interesting too, because then that kind of goes back to like what I was saying about how, it would be a crime for them to keep the free energy. It's equally of a crime to think that if every person is able to access this or interact with whatever this is, and they almost intentionally keep you distracted, worried with a million other things, too busy working, paying your bills, that you don't have time to explore your consciousness and, you know,
Exactly.
like what the abilities really are, or just how much more to life there really is, just keeping you intentionally away from it.
I agree with that. Um, I also was thinking too, what if like all the social media and our attention spans are totally gone? Like we're getting very far away from where we came from, like living in tune with nature and being part of a broader planet. Maybe now we're getting so wrapped up in ourselves and social media and TV and all that stuff. Whatever NHI is, maybe they're saying like, all right, they're forgetting who they are, sort of thing. They're getting so
Definitely.
far away from the spiritual quest for enlightenment or unlocking our soul or whatever you want to call it. Maybe we now need to intervene and get them back on the path to enlightenment. Because I know just for me, I'm a hiker. I love solitude. I love being in nature. And I never feel like either enlightened or so at peace than when all the technology is gone. I'm surrounded by nature. I never feel more whole. And maybe there's something to that connects with NHI and connects with UAP. And it's all kind of one thing.
Oh yeah, definitely. Because kind of like what you're just saying is, we're too focused on material things, and you're losing the spiritual component, which of course is very important. I mean, it's like, they're both important, but you got to have them in the right balance because, you can't live without material things. So you have to be materialistic to some extent, but then,
Right.
you go overboard and now the whole system's out of whack. And you know, it's kind of like the same thing with the spiritual. You can't go too heavy into the spiritual, or else, you know, you'll just be sitting around meditating, you know, 24 hours a day, you
Right.
know. So you gotta have both. You gotta have the material and you gotta have the physical, I mean spiritual. And we're kind of all material, no spiritual.
Yeah, 100%. I think balance is the key to everything in life. It's hard to attain, but we should always be working towards balance in our lives. I think that's definitely lost. We've lost compassion and empathy for our fellow man, for things weaker than us, animals and the planet and things like that. I think if we've lost sight of the spiritual, like you said, the spiritual aspect of our lives, and I think we need to get back there.
I
So,
mean, if them showing themselves, it definitely made me feel a bit more spiritual and whatnot, having these experiences, definitely. Because I never been like very much um like into religion. It kind of me not really into religion, but just into like spirituality in general. Definitely had that effect on me. So
right, right, absolutely. Maybe it's gonna do that for everybody. We're just maybe that's the 2027 date. Who knows?
yeah, because
See
that's
what
the other thing, like
happens.
how you said, like people lose their religion, or like I said, I feel like it makes you more religious, like not in some sense of the word, you know,
Right,
makes you have
spiritual.
some kind of faith, you know, in
Right,
something
something
more than
bigger than
just this earth.
ourselves.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly.
What would you say to skeptics who like would just dismiss your claims?
Dude, I don't know. I sometimes I think I kind of have two, you know, I'm of two minds of is like I want to convince them or I want to show them. But then it's like if they don't want to be convinced, maybe it's not the right thing to convince them almost, if that makes sense. That's kind of
Yep.
what I think about people who won't be convinced because it's like if this and this and this, there's nothing, you know what I mean? There's nothing that's going to convince them. And it kind of like I said, it's just if they want to live their life and say it's not real, then I guess that's just their choice in some kind of weird way.
Right. Absolutely. Well, you have to, well, if you got to see for yourself, then wait and see for yourself. I also do think there's paid skeptics out there. Like there's this
Oh,
guy Mick
definitely.
West and some other people, and he's like probably the most famous or well-known skeptic of the bunch. And he was just on a show the other day or a couple weeks ago, and he came out and admitted that he's being paid to be a skeptic. Now he wouldn't say who's paying him, but the host asked him, "Are you being paid for to be a skeptic?" And I don't know if he admitted it
That makes me
accidentally.
so mad. That makes me mad.
Right.
Like what? Like what? Should be like, I mean, that's like, how's that not illegal? I don't know.
Right. And
Like,
if it's something you claim not to believe in, why do you spend so much of your time on the subject then? If you don't believe in it and you just don't believe out of your own reasons, then why are you on Twitter arguing about UFOs every day?
yeah, yeah. Like I said, I think it's 100% real, and it makes me think of. I've been thinking a lot about how I watched the Chris Bledsoe interview, and like you know what he said, which the more I think about it, I really think I agree with what he says because he said is the one example he gave was he would bring a group of 50 people, let's just say, to try and see the orbs, you know, because he can summon them, I guess, or whatever. I guess he doesn't want to say summon, but he can make them.
Right.
But and he says his own words was that the people who didn't believe it, the people who were skeptical, that they would look away. And right in that very moment, when they weren't paying attention, all the people who believed in it would see it. And then the when the people would turn around, they would leave. And that's kind of what made me think about because he said it as in the orbs, they don't want to violate your free will. So saying as in if you believe in them, then it's not, you know, then showing itself is okay, it aligns with that. But then it would be like almost what's the word? Like I don't know, like intrusive for them to show
Right.
themselves to someone who didn't believe it. That would be like, I don't know how, like maybe rude or something. You know what I mean? Like to show yourself to someone like that who didn't want to see it, who didn't believe in it, you wouldn't want to do that.
Yeah,
I
I
feel like
think
that has
there's
something to do with it.
I think there's something to that. I don't know if it's because they refuse to show themselves. I think your mind has to be open to see them. Like I believe in UFOs, I believe in everything about it, but I think I'm just born with like a very rational, quote, rational brain where I think I would have a hard like I can't be hypnotized. And I just like I think my brain is too and I wish it wasn't because I think things are real. I just think your brain like spiritually, whatever, your brain, your soul, whatever, has to be open for them to kind of come through. So I think if you're not opening your brain to it, you're not going to see them.
Yeah, I definitely
I
think that
think
has
maybe
something to
there's
do with
something
it.
to, yeah, something like that.
I know what's interesting is like for, I don't I never thought anything of it for the longest time, but um supposedly aphantasia, where you don't see things in your mind. That's how I've always been, and I didn't ever realize that was something like that wasn't how everyone else was. Like, oh, like close your eyes and visualize a picture of an apple. And I guess a lot of other people can do that. I don't see anything at all when I close my eyes, and I don't know.
Right, me
Sometimes I
neither.
wonder if that has something to do with it or not, though, because it's like I don't know. It's just weird.
Yeah, I agree. People are different. I just I think some people are naturally just how they are as a person. They're open in that sort of thing, right? I think others might have to do some real work to kind of open up their spirit and their brain to take in the to open yourself up to things that are bigger than us.
I definitely think that's how it is. It's kind of like just like anything else, if you want to, you got to work at it. If you want to be good in your body, you have to work on it. If you want to perform good spiritually, it takes, time, practice.
Right. Yeah, I definitely agree. So in New Jersey, have you ran into or spoken to anybody else who saw kind of something similar to you?
Like I said, I've seen a few of my buddies who work at a store. They seen it. My friend have seen it. But surprisingly, it's like I feel like not that many people do like it. Kind of like I was getting into, like not that many people care. Surprisingly, which it also blows my mind. Where like even when it was just the New Jersey drones, like I don't know how to explain it, but like when the news first breaks about New Jersey drones, you would think everybody would be going out and looking outside, but they don't. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people just don't care.
Yep, I agree. And if a White House landed or if an alien landed on the White House lawn tomorrow, I think people would pay attention for a few minutes or an hour and then, open up their TikTok and go back to doing whatever they were doing.
100%. It would be exactly just like the Trump assassination. I mean, that was what on the news, the news for a couple days, and it was gone and forgotten about. Exactly. It would be. You're right. That's exactly what would happen if it landed on the White House lawn. It would be on the news for a few hours, and it'd be like, all right, well, back to regular stuff.
Right, exactly. So, kind of wrapping up, do you think we'll ever get full disclosure about the drone invasion? You think the government will ever level with us about what it knows?
Yeah, sadly, I kind of want to say no, only because for the reason that we just said is that even if it landed on the White House, it would just be forgotten about. I just kind of see it as like recently I've been thinking is like why do we need their approval? Like why do we need them to admit it? Like if we already know, if we already have sufficient evidence, it's like why do we even need them to admit it? If we know it, if we can prove it, it doesn't matter if they say it's not true.
I agree. I think more
So
whistleblowers are
yeah,
going to come forward. I don't think the government could put the lid back in the bottle anymore. I think
exactly.
whatever is out there, people are going to know about it very soon, and we're going to take it from there. Anything you want our viewers to know about you? Where could they find you on social media or anything like that?
Well, I just primarily just do X, so my X is at Paul Runyon, PaulRongion, and I've been just posting about the UFO, UAP stuff, I haven't taken any more photos or pictures recently. I've been a little busy, but I'm gonna be going back out there, spending nights out in the cold and stuff, trying to see what I can get.
Yeah, bundle up. If you get any good videos or pictures, send them over to me. Everybody, make sure you go and follow Paul on Twitter/X. I want to thank everybody for watching. I hope you found the conversation interesting. If you did, please like, subscribe, share, leave a comment about anything you heard in the video. I respond to every comment. I'm sure Paul will be checking as well. So if you have any questions for us, let us know. But thanks for coming by. We'll see you on the next episode of Beyond Top Secret.